They don't have vessels, and we call them sclera. Okay, you see a sclera? Okay. Now, sclera comes in the front and give rise to what? In the front, sclera makes what?
Cornea, right?
Cornea. So cornea is continuation of sclera over the front. This is the top layer. The top layer is sclera. So first layer is sclera. The second layer is the muscular layer because it's muscular. It also have a vessel, so we're gonna call them the vascular layer. And we call them choroid. So choroid is the second layer. You see the choroid? So the second layer of the eye is the choroid. Now the choroid comes in the front. Here it is. This is choroid. Come in the front, and then they're gonna give rise to the very front to this muscle, and we call them iris. Can I say continuation of choroid in the front is iris? And then at the same time, they come and they do this, give rise to another muscle, the ciliary muscle. And this ciliary muscle has some suspensory ligaments. We call them suspensory ligaments. Why? Because something is suspensing of them. And what is that? The lens. The lens is suspending off the suspensory ligament of the ciliary muscles. Okay, see that? So the last layer is the retina. The retina is actually the neuronal layer. The retina gave rise to optic nerve. So if you remember from lecture today, the axons of what layer of the retina, which cells of the retina, the axons of which cells of the layer of the retina give rise, makes optic nerve? The ganglion cells. So retina has retina has layers of retina. Is the pigment layer, right? Is one layer, and then we have the rods and cones and the reticular. But anyway, the ganglion layer is one of them, and all the axons of the ganglion is gonna make one big bundle of the nerve, and we call them optic nerve. Okay. Now, looking at this picture, answer this couple of questions I'm gonna ask you. The defect in the middle of the lens is called what? In the middle of the iris, the defect. The defect. The defect in the middle of the pupil. The pupil. So the pupil is a defect in it. In front of the lens is what?
Cornea.
Behind the lens, in front of the lens is iris. In front of the iris is cornea. So can you say the lens is kind of, the lens is in the back and the iris is between cornea and the lens? The iris is between cornea and the lens, right? So you have cornea, you have iris, and you have lens.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So if this retina is only vascular in the eye, right?
No, it's not vascular.
It has
Neuronal. Choroid is the vascular.
half the
They also have, but they have blood vessels. Yeah.
so that's how they get supplied.
Yeah.
Even the lens.
No, the lens don't have no
So it's one time thing.
The cornea don't have no supply either. I'll tell you one of the questions that was asked sometimes. The questions was saying, which of the following organs you can transplant without checking for blood type? Just literally take it from one person.
So it's cornea.
It's cornea.
Can they transplant the lens too?
Yeah, but they don't transplant. You can transplant cornea without doing the cross-match antibody titer because it doesn't have no blood, no antibody. Okay, you can take it from someone as HIV, put it in a healthy person. Is not going to transfer the infectious disease because it doesn't have blood. Okay. Okay. Now, whatever you see behind the lens is really thick and gelatinous, and that liquid is called the vitreous humor. It's gelatinous liquid. The content of what is in front of the lens is fluidy, watery, liquidy, and they call them vitreous humor. So the vitreous humor, based on your book, vitreous humor, which is the anterior segment, has two chambers, a posterior chamber and anterior chamber. They call them the anterior segment. So anterior segment this is the lens in here, and posterior segment is going to be in here. So posterior segment is behind the lens, and anterior segment is in front of the lens. Now, if you take in front of the lens, right, sits iris, right? This is lens, and this is iris, and this is cornea. So between the lens and the iris, this area is called the posterior chamber, and this area is called the anterior chamber. And here is posterior chamber. So posterior chamber is between the lens and the iris. Anterior chamber is between the cornea and the iris. This part. Now, see, fluid, aqueous humors, is made in the tissues. There are certain cells in the ciliary muscles. What they do, this is important. They haven't shown the direction of it, but anyway, in your book they had really nice direction of showing in your lecture book, direction of how come the vitreous humor, where it's made and where does it go, and is it gonna be absorbed. I guess this is also in here too. Yeah, this is good. On page 343, we can see that. Do you see the ciliary body on page 343? Ciliary body. So ciliary body is gonna make the fluid, and the fluid is gonna go between the lens and between the iris, and then it's gonna come down in front of the iris, and it's gonna be they're gonna pass through the canal of Schlemm, and then they're gonna be absorbed in a choroid. So. Okay, so in this structure, fluid in the anterior chamber is made in the ciliary muscles. So the question will be, where is it? It's going to be made in the ciliary muscle. Next question, the fluid that was made in the ciliary muscle, which is in the posterior chamber, what structure does it going to pass through to get to the anterior chamber? Canal of Schlemm. You see there's a canal of Schlemm there? Mm-hmm. You see that? So canal of Schlemm is gonna, and why is that important? This is important in glaucoma. There is open angle glaucoma, closed angle glaucoma. It's emergency situation. People can literally lose their sight, die, and is one of these chambers, hydraulic pressure is gonna go up or is gonna be blocked. Okay. So canal of Schlemm.
What is the difference between the ciliary body and the ciliary muscle?
Muscles, I think, is projections and actually nothing.
Okay, so the answer to what produces the fluid
If
is
you-
also the ciliary body.
Yeah, if you see structures like this and this, they're gonna be ciliary body.
Mm-hmm.
But if you be more specific, they have striated muscles, and this striated muscle is the muscle,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some fibers and fat tissue all together. Of course, this connective tissue covered all together as ciliary body.
Got it.
So the muscle is just the muscle. If you put all the other junk, fibers, fat and stuff, that's gonna be there.
Gotcha.
So what I'm gonna do, right? Glaucoma, by the way, glaucoma, as I talk about, this is when the intraocular pressure is elevated, and that hydrostatic pressure, of course, and that damages the optic nerve and causes blindness. If the canal of Schlemm becomes blocked, fluid accumulates in the anterior cavity, and the intraocular pressure rises. So that's regarding the anterior cavity or anterior segment, because if canal of Schlemm is blocked, so the fluid is not going to be able to get to from the posterior chamber to the anterior chamber to be absorbed. Okay. Okay. So, what they have done, if in your book on page 342, that's a really good classification of it. They have divided these layers of the eye into 3 layers: fibrous tonic, or tunica fibrosa, or fibrous tonic. Fibrous tonic is the cornea, the sclera, and continuation of the sclera in the front is the cornea. So this is the fibrous tissue. The fibrous layer of the eye is the sclera in the front makes cornea. The second layer, which is the vascular layer, and that is obviously the choroid in front. The choroid is going to give rise to ciliary body and iris. But this is a very, very good thing. It's good that I know this. There is disease called the uveitis. There's especially uveitis being seen in is a vascular disease. Gosh, I can't think of its name. It's an autoimmune vascular disease. Behçet. Behçet is a disease, an autoimmune vascular disease that the person has nodules and they have ulcers in their mouth and blindness and genital. They also, what they have, the diseases of the eyes and inflammation of the uveitis of the eyes. So from now on, if they tell you the medial layer of the eye or the uvea, you think of the vascular tract is the uvea. So uvea consists of the choroid, the ciliary body / ciliary, and the iris. That's the uvea. So if you have, like diabetic, they get uveitis. They mean that somewhere along the vascular layer, somewhere along the ciliary body and the iris is the uvea. You see in parentheses they put uvea, so remember uvea. That what is uvea? Now, the neuronal part, which is the pigmented layer, of course they have pigments. That is going to be the neural tonic, which is the retina. Now you see how they put the posterior cavity and anterior cavity. So posterior cavity, have you ever seen eyes? I mean, I've seen them in cadaver that whenever you take the eyes out for the retina, you see this gooey gelatinous, the gelatinous material that is in the posterior cavity. Anterior cavity has humorous liquid, right? So now anterior cavity has 2 chambers, which is what chambers? Anterior cavity, 2 chambers. It is anterior and posterior, and iris sits in the middle. Good. So this is good. We are making progress. Say that again, please. On page 345, I want you to kind of remember, if you don't mind, the layers in this order. Remember the pigmented layers first. These are the organization of the retina. These are the photoreceptors are close to the choroid. Okay? So photoreceptors are close to the choroid. So choroid, the first layer photoreceptor, which are close to them, rods and cones. But before rods and cones, the first layer is the pigmented rods and cones, and then we have bipolar neurons. And then there is the ganglion cells, and axons of the ganglion cells, they're all gonna kind of braid it into a tail, and that's the optic nerve. Now along the way there is the amacrine cells too, and horizontal cells too. They are also important, and they have they're really interesting once you study more about them later on. But for time being, along bipolar cells, along the sides of the bipolar cells, the horizontal cells and amacrine cells are also FYI. Okay. So that was the eye. So we're gonna look at the cow's eyes. I guess that's what we have. Bovine. In the ear. I'm gonna do the models. After this, we're gonna do the models, and then we're gonna do the models and cow's eyes. Okay. Ears. If you look at the ears, divide them into the external, middle, and inner ear, 365.